positive vibes, change how I feel inside. Got me leaving drama, losing time we never had. Changing ways and elevating so I won't look back, no. You got that positive vibe that makes me feel alive. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Positivity, drama free as you elevate me. Energy, 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 energy. You got that energy, energy, energy. You got that, you got that, you got that, you got that energy, energy. You got that, 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 you got that energy, 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 energy. You got that energy, babe. You know the kind I can't escape, won't replace, not erase, won't erase, can't escape, not replace, cannot escape, can't replace, won't erase, can't escape, not erase. You got that energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. Got that energy, energy, babe. Energy, babe. Energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. You know you got that energy. Came to slay, not to play as you regulate. Checking all the boxes off president debate. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Feel so high off this vibe, my mental is elevated. This energy's real, it's like I'm moving but I'm standing still. No negative penetration, cause this vibe I peeps for real. Attracting to your megahertz, right frequency, yeah. You elevate and take me high, you help me be real. You got that vibe that makes me feel alive. Take me high to a higher place. You got that energy, babe, the kind that won't ever fade. You give me positive vibes, change how I feel inside. Got me leaving drama, losing time we never had. Changing ways and elevating so I won't look back, no. You got that positive vibe that makes me feel alive. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Positivity, drama free as you elevate me. Energy, 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 energy. You got that energy, energy, energy. You got that, you got that, you got that, you got that energy, energy. You got that, 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 you got that energy, 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 energy. You got that energy, babe. You know the kind I can't escape, won't replace, not erase, won't erase, can't escape, not replace, cannot escape, can't replace, won't erase, can't escape, not erase. You got that energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. Got that energy, energy, babe. Energy, babe. Energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. You know you got that energy. Came to slay, not to play as you regulate. checking all the boxes off president debate. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Feel so high off this vibe, my mental is elevated. This energy's real, it's like I'm moving but I'm standing still. No negative penetration, cause this vibe I peeps for real. Attracting to your megahertz, right frequency, yeah. You elevate and take me high, you help me be real. You got that vibe that makes me feel alive. Take me high to a higher place. Energy, babe, the kind that won't ever fade. You give me positive vibes, change how I feel inside. Got me leaving drama, losing time we never had. Changing ways and elevating so I won't look back, no. You got that positive vibe that makes me feel alive. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Positivity, drama free as you elevate me. Energy, energy. Kind I can't escape, won't replace, not erase. Won't erase, can't escape, not replace. Cannot escape, can't replace, won't erase. Won't replace, can't escape, not erase. You got that energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. Got that energy, energy, babe. Energy, babe. Energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. You know you got that energy. Came to slay, not to play as you regulate. Checking all the boxes off president debate. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Feel so high off this vibe, my mental is elevated. This energy's real, it's like I'm moving but I'm standing still. No negative penetration, cause this vibe I peeps for real. Attracting to your megahertz, right frequency, yeah. You elevate and take me high, you help me be real. You got that vibe that makes me feel alive. Take me high to a higher place. Ooh, yeah. You got that energy, babe, the kind that won't ever fade. You give me positive vibes, change how I feel inside. Got me leaving drama, losing time we never had. Changing ways and elevating so I won't look back, no. You got that positive vibe that makes me feel alive. Let me ride on this high as you elevate Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Positivity, drama free as you elevate me. Energy, 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 energy. You got that energy, energy, energy. You got that, you got that, you got that, you got that. Kind I can't escape, won't replace, not erase.
Hello, my fellow podcasters. Welcome to Beamery Live. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Let a couple more people join us. But for now, just have to listen. The sounds of music.
Energy, babe, energy, babe, energy, babe. You got that energy, babe. You know you got that energy. Came to slay, not to play as you regulate. Checking all the boxes off president debate. Let me ride on this high as you elevate me. Feel so high off this vibe, my mental is elevated. This energy's real, it's like I'm moving, but I'm standing still. No negative penetration, cause this vibe I peeps for real. Attracting to your megahertz, right frequency, yeah. You elevate and take me high, you help me be real. You got that vibe that makes me feel alive. Take me high to a higher place. Ooh, yeah.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome. Let me move my microphone over just a smidge because I realize that it's a little bit blocking me. I always have myself going in the background, but let me put this down some. Some days it's good and some days it's not. You see me looking at a different screen because I have several monitors, and one of them is a little bit more functional in terms of me reading the comments than others. So you might see me kind of glance over here to the left. But regardless, I'm gonna do what it do. So how have you all been this week? You gotta let me know how you been doing. It's been one of those days yesterday for me. I really wasn't in the mood uh, to do much of anything. And one thing about me is, I realize that as we grow, we have different needs and different things that we may come across as we do what we do. But for me, a lot of times it just depends on the mood. And I like to be in a good mood when I address good people like you. So, um, wasn't that I wasn't in a good mood. I just wasn't in a place where I felt I would be able to give to you and receive. So, anyway, suffice to say, that was yesterday. And like I said on the heading, tomorrow is another day. So, yes, we are here. It is Friday, December the 6th, 2023. Happy New Year. I'm so glad that we are all here to make this new year. And I want to send out my prayers and my thanks to heavenly heavens for the recovery and revival of, sorry about that, I have my timer on. I always use timers, of Damar, uh, the football player for the New York Giants. What a tumultuous situation that he back basically died and came back to life right on the football field. And there was like maybe a 20-minute commercial break, and no one was aware of what was going on, obviously, until they made the announcement. But thankfully, they were able to revive him. And yesterday or this morning, they took him off of life support, so he is now breathing on his own. So we like to send our prayers out once again to Damar Hamlin of the New York Bills. Thank you, Jesus, and to his parents, because I have a son, and I don't know. Me and my son were actually talking about this morning, and I don't know. I didn't even want. I kind of cut him off a little bit because I didn't even want to think about how I would have felt had it been my son. And football is very difficult to have to worry about your child when they're on the field, because those coaches are very protective over those young men, and pretty much they your child is now their child basically, so they don't really let you in on it as much as you would imagine. But anywho, moving on, we again send out our prayers to the Hamlins and to Mr. Damar. And one of the things that he asked his teammates when he woke up, because they made the game a contest, because basically they stopped the game and didn't finish it. And of course, the Bills were ahead by, at 7, I believe. But he asked his teammates who won the game, and they said, "You did. You won the game of life." So, amen to that. Amen. Whew, prayers going out again. I couldn't imagine. But getting into our topic today, kind of can be spun off of this situation a little bit. But again, I wanted that to be a whole separate scenario. But basically, do not, you all, and I repeat, do not let anyone rob you of your positive energies. Okay? Don't let them do it, because they will do it. And it's unfortunate that this happens. But one of the things that we're going to talk about is not letting anyone disturb your energy. And it is so easy for that to happen in many cases, because people, unfortunately, um, we're in a time where people are grumpy, they're disgruntled, they're pissed off. Um, Maybe they feel like they can't go on. I don't know. But I pray for my loved ones on a daily basis, especially those who are appearing a little weaker in some cases than others. But just theoretically hoping that everyone is doing what they can and doing the best that they can to make sure that they are, living their best life and doing the things that they need to do um, to maintain. It is very hard these days. So, we can only pray for those who are going through things that we can't help them go through. So that brings me to my first topic in our discussion today: positivity. You know, um, one of my favorite sayings is to take the path of least resistance. What is the path of least resistance? Well, when you come to an intersection, how do you decide which way to go? Do you take the difficult way, or do you take the easy way? And this is what we're talking about today when we talk about the path of least resistance. In the path of least resistance, what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we are talking about the path of least resistance, that we're taking the easiest route for you. I mean, it's so easy, because especially those of us who have been parents, and even if you're not a parent, maybe you take care of your parent, maybe you take care of a loved one who needs you in this time, whether they're aging or whatever the scenario is. The bottom line is, it is imperative for us to, make sure that we're taking care of the loved ones, but also you got to take care of you. And if you don't take care of yourself, then basically you can't take care of anyone else. Whether they're calling you in the middle of the night, first thing in the morning, the middle of the day, wherever and whenever, you have got to take care of yourself. And a couple of things that I have learned and that I appreciate in my growth on my journey to me is that I got to a place where I realized that really what somebody else is going through is not my business. It's not my business. It is not my business, nor is it my responsibility to take care of the individuals that are not taking care of themselves. I mean, we all have a journey, and unfortunately, I can't, navigate yours. You can't navigate mine, but you can't negate the fact that there are things that you need to do to make sure you're strong, healthy, surviving, thriving, and of course, we say a lot of times money has a lot to do with our struggle, but I think Keisha Cole posted, I think early this week or last week, that people think money is everything, and it's not. And I would say that people, you know, believe that if you're a millionaire, you're going to have more success in life. And what it does is it provides security, of course. Yes, absolutely. But it doesn't mean that you're going to be more successful than you are without the money, because your success comes in based on your drive, your will, your know how. So you really still have to rely on yourself a lot. Now, should we all be rich? Of course, we should. You know, I believe that there is a pot of gold for everyone who wants to achieve it. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit about how we clear these negative things out and maybe how we can progress and get to a level in which we are able to achieve positivity and money, if that's what your goal is. But regardless, today's topic is about how you and how we together so collectively help to heal each other through our processes. And one of the things is, again, let's say, for instance, you are basically speaking to someone and they are not always in the positive of moods. Um, you are trying to figure out what your path of least resistance is. Now, the main thing would be an example, is to, of course, listen. Just hear them out. Give them the best listening ear you could possibly give. And, when or if you're allowed to speak, then, you can share what you want to say or what you feel they're going to receive. Because part of being able to communicate with someone is understanding what they can receive, what they can't receive. And obviously, it's not up to you to decide whether this person's in a receiving mood or not. But definitely through the path of least resistance that you're taking with this individual, you're going to decipher whether or not they are receiving or not. And if they're not, you go back into your listening stage, listening mode. And eventually, you're going to find that the people that don't want to receive you are going to weed themselves out. You ain't going to have to tell them not to call you, not to be around you, not to do this, and not to do that. And sometimes this consists of family, best friends, um, workers, colleagues, so many different people. But for the most part, let's talk about some of the examples of the path of least resistance. Okay, so sometimes I have these klutzy, clumsy mornings. I'm a little clumsy and klutzy, and I get so frustrated and overwhelmed because I feel like, oh my gosh, if I drop one more thing. But as long as I keep that demeanor and as long as I keep that resistance or contrast to the situation, I'm going to keep on dropping things. So when I began to decide what my path of least resistance is, I sometimes have to just stop. And this could be in a conversation, it could be, again, at work, it could be um, at a family gathering, whatever the scenario is. Somebody is coming in hot and coming in heavy, and they coming at you like a 18 wheeler. and you don't know whether to jump to the left or right or stay where you at, and if he's going to put on the brakes, you have no idea. So at that moment, let's say it's an 18 wheeler, if obviously the path of least resistance is to jump out the way, you're not going to stand there and take the chance that they're basically going to not hit you, right? So some things that we could do if we were talking about the path of least resistance to preserve our own mental is when this person, people, issue arises, to take the moment that you need to take at that time and think, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? This is getting on my nerves, and they're not listening, or this person keeps hitting me up on Teams, and I've asked them to just give me 10 minutes, and it hasn't even been two, and now they're asking for something else. Whatever the scenario is, I implore you at that moment to stop and think what you're feeling. Years ago, people would talk about feelings. Don't don't nobody care about feelings, and they say that today, but that's not true. Because in order for you to achieve whatever it is that you feel that you want out of life, you have to go back to that place of feeling. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to have your sanity in that moment when someone is completely and utterly getting on your last nerve? What does it take? At that moment, what it's going to take is for you to find your solace and your peace. And for me, I like to say I go into my vortex, my bubble, my space, whatever it is. And I'm listening, but at the same time, I'm protecting everything about me at that moment. I'm keeping my head on because an older version of me may have kind of blanked with you, but that's because I tend to take on people's emotions because I want so much to help them. And so, even in relationships and family dynamics, work relationships, everything, I take on people's whole demeanor. And it was only about the last 6 months to a year that I realized what I was doing. And in that time frame, I learned that I also had to find the path of least resistance. And for me, the path of least resistance was to listen, breathe, allow them to speak, and then wait. Because a lot of people, when they're talking, obviously, after them going on a bit of a tirade, a tyrant, 4 minute tirade, tyrant, they're going to stop and pause and say, are you there? Are you listening? Whether it's on the phone or in person or whatever. And of course, you're going to acknowledge them or what have you. Now, there are moments where they're not going to hear you. They're not going to respond to what you're giving because they're so busy worrying about what they have, what they want to project, what they want to give, what they want to say, venting, getting this out, letting it out. And so once I get to that place where I'm able to hear them and just breathe through the process, I still just wait a few more seconds. And even if they say, did you hear me? Sometimes through their silence and through the silence, I'm like, yep, I'm still here. And I'm not really worried about how they're going to receive me saying yes or no. I'm more worried about how I'm going to process the way that they're giving this to me because potentially if I don't process it correctly, I'm going to have a bad day, right? So, to prevent myself from having a bad day, one of the things that I'm going to do is take that path of least resistance. And that is going to be directing myself into a place where I can be protected from the negativity that they're bringing on. And when we talk about this path of least resistance, you have to find what it is for you. I just know for me in that moment, it is so nice to just be there, but at the same time, not lending my voice at that moment because I know at the beginning of that conversation or the beginning of that email or the beginning of that DM or that text message or whatever, um, it's not going to be positive because whatever mode the individual that sent it or is delivering it wasn't in a good mode. So I'm going to take my time before I respond because I don't want I don't want to seem like I don't be there. That's not the issue because it's a test and a challenge for me to basically see where I'm at as well. But again, the path of least resistance is going to be to jump out from in front of the diesel, right? You're not going to stand there and let it hit you. And then by the time it hits you, it's too late. You can't decide whether you're going to survive it, whether you're going to get over it, or what you're going to do. But what you can know is that if you move out of the way, you moved out of the way of an 18 wheeler, okay? And you have life. You still have life. So, same scenario someone calling, someone texting, someone DMing, someone emailing you in the middle of the morning, day, or night, right about the time you about to get off work, and you now have to decipher if you're going to allow it to ruin the rest of your day, or are you going to allow it to be redirected so that it has a better day on their own and you continue with the one you had. Some of the characteristics that we look for when we hear about people doing these kinds of things are, again, in the conversation they're in trying to ensnare you, or maybe they are trying to feel some kind of way because you're talking. I mean, they're talking and you're listening, and they're wondering why you're not mad. Meanwhile, you wonder why they are mad. So, with that being said, you have to look for these characteristics as well. You have to make sure that no matter what, you're not getting wrapped up in a scenario that's going to take you down this tunnel and leave you for dead. Okay? Because the thing about people that don't really see what's going on their end is they are see I steer clear of using the word selfish anymore because selfish is something I use for myself to be so that I am able to find out how Dina Marie is going to guide herself. And there's nothing wrong. We talked about this last week about being selfish. There's nothing wrong with you being selfish. Being selfish is mandatory in this day and age because you have to decide which direction you're going. Now, if you have a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a loved one, whatever the scenario is, we talk about selfishness. We're talking about being selfish to the degree where you know where you're headed so that you can decipher what you need to do to make sure you keep your mental and your sanity and you're not allowing this person to come in and infiltrate your space that you use to get through your day and night. That's selfishness. For selfish to me, selfishness is where you're not going to help anyone out of a situation that you know you'll be blessed for, and that's not that conversation. Let me be clear about that. That conversation is not one that requires you to be selfish. At that moment in that conversation, the path of least resistance is to be selfish so that you know what you are doing for your mental. Okay? Jumping out of the way of the diesel. Remember that. But in addition to that, you have to be on your toes to find out that these cues are coming from the individual who's being selfish, trying to take your mental. Okay. And again, I know y'all get what I'm saying, so I'm not going to keep with the semantics about selfishness, so on and so forth. You've got to be selfless in some scenarios, but you still have to remain selfish when you're selfless. So you figure that out. But that's the point that I'm making in You Heal Me, I Heal You. I'm sharing my stories with you. You sharing your stories with me through the chat, and I'm sharing them with everyone on screen because it's helping each other. We're helping one another to heal through our process. Um, with me, I will say, yes, I have many um, family members that I enjoy having dialogue with. And there are many, many times where there are scenarios where I'm not going to allow someone to turn a situation into something where I take the accountability. Years ago, when I was younger, um, I always did this, you know, whether it was being in a relationship with a man, it was always me thinking about when he was going to call, when he was going to do this, when he was going to do that. And I'm not doing that anymore because I realize that in regard to a man, because, you know, that's my choice, men, but if in regard to a man, I feel like the right man for me is going to love me through everything, love my life, my situations, the people in my life, so on and so forth. But for the most part, he's going to love me through everything. And he's never going to leave me to feel that I am not being thought of, that I'm not being cared about, that he's not thinking of me, that he's not there for me in any way, shape, or form. I'm not the type of woman to go ask a man for some money. I don't care if I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I'm going to pay my rent, how I'm going to pay my car payment, how I'm going to pay my car insurance, which is crazy in California right now, by the way. But any of that, because I'm not, it's not a pride thing. And I know that some people might say that it is, but for me it's not, because I feel that the right man is going to put his money where his mouth is, so to speak. And I don't even mean money literally, but I'm saying anything that he has that he's bringing to the table in this regard, he's going to put it, he's going to come to me with it. I'm not going to have to ask for it. So that's one scenario. On another spectrum, when we talk about family, you know, family can drain the life out of you. And because we love them, we allow it. And we not only allow it, but we also can go months, days, years, weeks without ever stopping to think if you have something left over for Dina, for you, for whoever you are, whether you have something left over for yourself. And the reality is it's really hurtful sometimes that because someone may be in a non-receiving place, that they can't see what they need to see to make sure that they're not creating more pain and hurt and destitute for you, and contrast for you, because that at that moment they're just thinking about what they can get from you. And if you're like me, I can't see the negativity in those situations, meaning I can't see doing that to someone per se. Don't get me wrong, I've been depressed and I've had people there that were for me. And when I look back, you know, I may have been draining them. And I apologize to them for that because that was never my intent. But that's my point. If they know me, they know that it's not Dina's intent to come in and drain them of their energy. But then there are some people, and you don't know if that's their intent, or you don't know if they don't care, or you don't know if that's what they set out to do. So when I say be selfish, that's why, because it's no longer give this person this and give this person that. No, you keep the majority for you. If you decide you can give something to someone else, that's on you. But that ain't in my business. But what I know is that that person coming to me with their stuff, that ain't my business either. I don't mind listening, and I don't mind being there in a way that helps them to find the answer, because I think that's so important. Is me help you, you help me, each one teach one. But it is not my responsibility to make sure that you're happy at the end of the day. If you don't know how to find your happiness, I'll be happy to work whatever way that I can to help you. But that's part of it. And the characteristics of those people that are doing those kinds of things, you'll know it because when you go to give them some valuable information, they may or may not be in a receiving mode. And if they're not in a receiving mode, how much more likely should you to continue listening, because they're taking from you, but they're not receiving from you. And so if they're not receiving from you, they're not going to receive from a higher power. And you're not a higher power. We're all humans. We're all on equal playing ground, so to speak, and we're all in the same boat, so to speak. So if there's someone that you are not able to give um, that good advice to, and they're counting on you to listen to their issues and banter back and forth about what they feel they want to talk about, but yet they're not willing to discuss or receive you, that's one of the characteristics. Another characteristic would be, let's say, for instance, they're basically not going to allow you to redirect um, them in that moment. You know, you may interject and you may try to say, hey, you called me yesterday and we were talking about the same thing, or you DM'd me 5 minutes ago and you asked me to do that and I did it. And I don't understand why anybody else isn't seeing it on their, teams, or they're not seeing it in their email. But basically, I already did what I needed to do and I'm off work today. So, why are you continuing to bother me? So, part of the characteristics with this individual is, if you're unable to redirect them in that moment, and they're not willing to give you that piece of them that allows them to receive or be redirected, why are you continuing the conversation? But moreover, one of the characteristics lies within you also. And that is, how likely are you to be honest with yourself first? And when I say be honest with yourself, are you being honest about how you feel? Is this something that is like nail biting, nails to the chalkboard, screeching, annoying, and overwhelming to you, to the degree that you do not want to hear, listen, deal with, or receive from someone else? Because you have an opportunity at determining whether you want to receive it. And if this is something that you're not willing to receive, again, here we go. Heal each other. We need to heal each other. And the only way to do that is for you to verbalize that. I feel like a lot of us just keep going and we never say what's on our mind. And it's not it, it the bad part about this type of volatile conversation that someone may have or be entertaining with you at that moment is that it could escalate very quickly into an argument, because that person is wanting to argue. They're wanting to win an argument. They're wanting to seek validation for their argument. And you may or may not be willing or wanting to go into this, again, banter of semantics with the individual, because you already having a good day. You're already in a good headspace. You already are aware of what you want and what you don't want. Because when you find out what you don't want, the opposite is what you do want. And so, with that being said, you have to work towards the things that you do want, so that you are not putting yourself in a place that keeps you down. When people talk about vibrations, I'm going to leave you a couple of like 3 websites at the end, and I call it homework. It allows you to go out and research some of this yourself. Finding your actual prescription, if you will. Not everything needs to be prescribed from a medical doctor. You know, you can find things on your own. And maybe some of you are not very computer savvy. Maybe you don't like computer, but you use your phone. I know when I have downtime when I'm sleeping, I like to sometimes pick up my phone and kind of browse the internet. I have lately gotten to the point where I don't do that as much, because it kind of keeps me sleep awake. But then I might go to and find some meditation music in my Spotify or iTunes, and I put on a pair of headphones and I use that to go to sleep. So that's a relaxing part, but it also helps me. It's a two-factor type of meditating music. It, number one, helps me sleep. Number two, it helps me to receive music on a certain amount or certain megahertz that helps to clear my mind. So again, those are things you could study, but my point to this is that at night, if you're not the type of person that likes to go and research things on your laptop or your desktop, then obviously our smartphones will do the same thing, and it can help you go to sleep if you're one of those people that likes to read. And I'll drop those three um, websites in the chat box before we go so that you can take advantage of that. Or, excuse me, I'll leave it on my YouTube page below where you like and subscribe. Hey. Um, but at any rate, what I'm getting at is when we talk about these characteristics of the individuals that are coming in trying to, maybe they don't know at the time that they're trying to rob you of your energy, but if someone's coming to you with something and it's going upstream, and I say going upstream because upstream is a lot more difficult to swim through and paddle through than downstream. But if it's taking you upstream, you need to immediately be able to identify that and cut it off. Sally, the other day we spoke and I was listening to every word you said, and I appreciate how you feel. However, we on day 3 and you still talking about it. So I'm a little bit concerned, Sally. Sally, what's going on with you? And maybe Sally doesn't know how to articulate how she feels to that other party. But this is the moment that you reverse your learning information into her healing information. Okay? So again, this is where you take your learning points and turn them into healing points for Sally. Because if Sally isn't aware by now of this never ending hole that she is just drowning in and just going down the drain like our jobs. No, I'm kidding. If she doesn't realize it, remember that Ross Perot? Yeah. Okay, so if she doesn't realize that sucking noise is her being sucked down the drain, then how can you do anything more for Sally? You can't. You have to let Sally learn on her own. And these are the characteristics that you're looking for. Things that are taking you in a place that you do not want to go, trying to manipulate you into a zone that you was already in but came out of, trying to make you feel that you're less worthy because when you try to interject and assist them and give them information and issues or on their issues, they don't want to hear them. And then flat right out interrupt you or say whatever it is to create an argument. Were you planning on that for today? If that's something you're planning on, then you too are going down the drain with Sally. So you have to make sure that whatever it is that you're looking for in life, that you recognize characteristics that are going to take you out of that zone. Because you can't go up, and this is an elevation of the mind. You can't get an elevation in your mind if you're allowing someone to constantly pull you down. And that is actual factual, okay? Because when you get off that phone call, when you put down your iPhone or your Droid from the text message, or your smartphone from the text message, when you put down that laptop from the email or the DM from the team's chat, if you allow them to suck you in, you can best believe that you too are going to have a shitty day. So you have to really recognize these characteristics. And I know that y'all hear me, but some of you ain't listening because these are things that are continuing to happen to you on a daily basis. And you're wondering why you get up and can't handle the stuff going on in your own life. And it's because of the energies that you have surrounding you and the people that are bringing those energies. Now, am I saying you got to cut your mama off? You got to cut your father off? You got to cut your sister off, your brother, or whatever? No, it's not that you have to cut them off. And I mean that verbally when they're talking, and I mean that tangibly when you're having the relationship with them. What I'm saying is, you are responsible for recognizing where you are in the moment of those dialogues that you're having, regardless of who it's with. And if you're in a place that you're able to receive and you're able to reciprocate with that person and they're able to receive you, then you may be looking at a fairly decent situation to be able to have a conversation, get on, get off. But if you're 3 days in with the same conversation, now you over here on this side completely annoyed because they came to you with it, but you never said anything about it and how you didn't want to hear it and how you don't want to go through it, how you're here for them, but at the same time, there are things that you've given them and tools that they've got in their toolbox, and you just want to know how are you going to handle that, Sally? This is day 3, and my comeback with the quickness might be, so what are you going to do about it? And Sally makes a decision on what she's going to do about it, or she stops like, oh, well, what do you mean? What do you mean? What am I going to do about it? What are you trying to say? You don't want to have a conversation now? You too good to talk? Then you know it's going the wrong way. And it might be time to tell Sally, you know what, I got to ham in the oven. I don't want it to dry out. Let me go check on it and I'll give you a call back. A lot of people use those tactics or whatever, and they're not going to call you back. They're not going to call you back. But to me, that's a cop out. So another way that I may handle my situation is say, like I said earlier, Sally, you called me on Monday. It's Friday now. And we were talking about this on Monday. And on Monday, you didn't tell them how you was feeling and not to disturb you while you was, working on the project for your boss? Or you felt it was necessary to continue having this conversation after? Why did you feel that way? And then I start asking them questions because my goal is I don't want to gaslight them and make them feel like crap, but at the same time I need them to understand that the brunt of the responsibility for where they are is on them, not me. You're calling me because you want to vent, and I don't have a problem with you venting, but I also want you to be aware of the fact that we can talk about many more things than what we talked about on Monday, and we can, you know, um, advance or excel or mature our conversation in another direction where we're not reflecting on things that have not changed for you, not for me, but for you. So when you start recognizing these characteristics and you see that there haven't been monumental changes or even minute changes in this individual, how much more likely are you going to allow yourself to be enthralled or sucked into this scenario so that you too become that same, I guess, same negative impact on yourself, and allowing any positive, any positive energy or motivation or scenarios to come in through your um, through these types of dialogues, and they pull you down and suck you dry. How long is it going to take for you to recognize that? Hmm? That's the question. But the characteristics are so important to recognize. So far we've talked about taking the path of least resistance and how to recognize these characteristics as they're happening. And you may interchange those two. Maybe the conversation starts off and you might need to start recognizing those characteristics before you decide what your path of least resistance is. But I started off with talking about the path of least resistance because no matter where you decide to use that tool for your toolbox, you basically need to start going in immediately when Sally calls back on day 3 with the same subject. Now you need to, let me get my tool box out. Let me get to the tool shed. I need to get my tools out because it looks like Sally's still talking about the same shit from Monday. But you're not saying that out loud. You are, however, trying to get your life at that moment, so to speak. And so I love saying the path of least resistance, even if I go into the kitchen. And I swear to you, um, I'm doing a little bit of rearranging in my apartment. It's a studio, as I've talked about before. You know, you don't have a lot of space in your real estate here unless you have, more, healthier means to be able to do that. And I know it's coming. It's just a matter of time. And I'm not worried about it because it's coming. But where I'm at right now, I love it. And I've been here for, this is going on 5 years. I cannot freaking believe I've been in LA for 5 years, Long Beach, LA area. But Long Beach is LA County. So when you hear people talk about LA and LA, but they really don't live in LA, what do they call it? Common or LA proper. That's what they call it. And that's like areas of LA that are officially LA or whatever. But anywho, so much information about LA. But anyway, people that live in LA County, and LA County is humongous, if that's a word. Humongous, hugonic is huge. So a lot of people just say I live in LA because if I tell you where I live and it's not a common name, everybody knows about Long Beach, but people aren't gonna know. So people just say I live in LA because it's LA County. But anywho, what I was saying was if I go into the kitchen, like this morning, I went into the kitchen and I had a bunch of bananas. Now, I love my bananas, but I only eat Dole bananas. I don't eat Chiquita and I don't eat any other non-name brand. There have been occasions, I think Walmart has something called something one, and they're all right. But a Dole banana has a nice bite. It's not too creamy. Doesn't make your mouth stick. It's just a good banana. Chiquita banana is the song, and everybody goes to that. But when you bite that, it makes me feel like I'm eating peanut butter because my mouth, consistency is a thing for me. I cannot. But at any rate, I go in the kitchen and when I buy my bananas, they're greenish yellow. I don't mind if they're more firm and not as sweet. Um, because being a diabetic, you got to learn how to eat, and that's one of the things. And I'll eat a banana, you know, when it gets too ripe or whatever. Sometimes I freeze them because then you could still put them in a smoothie, or I can make pancakes out of them. But anyway, I go in there. Yesterday, I went to the store, and there's this Mexican store that I love. It is a Latino owned franchise called Northgate here in LA, and I love it because you can go in there and they've made fresh tamales and other types of Mexican dishes like ceviche and so many different things. But the caveat to that is going in when it's fresh. So I like to go in the morning. But they also have the best fruit. Like their oranges are good, their cantaloupes, everything. They have breads. It's just amazing. Of course, like I said, I love Mexican food, so I can eat it any day of the week, all day. But I went in, I look at the bananas, and I'm inspecting, and I'm trying to find the right color, the right consistency in terms of um, the color, that there's not any bruising or black markings on them, and so on and so forth. And then sometimes I'll come home and I'll burn the ends of them because if you didn't know, that's where fruit flies hide. So if you burn the ends of the banana, both ends, I think it's the end that's exposed instead of the part that's connected to the rind. But the end that's exposed, um, then you won't have fruit flies in your kitchen. So anywho, with that being said, um, I go in to look at the bananas. Now every night, and I don't know if this is a result of me having lived on the East Coast, but every day, pretty much every day, I wake up between 3 and 4 a.m. And really, that's 6 and 7 a.m. on the East Coast. And so sometimes I'll just do posts like, on Instagram. Hey, y'all, the channel is going to be airing at 4 today. Make sure y'all on, blah, 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 whatever. And I go to get the banana, back to the banana, trying to get through the banana story. I have ADD. I love it because I like being able to talk about anything and do more than one thing at a time. Although I do take medicine, and we'll talk about that one day. But anyway, and it's mainly for anxiety. But I don't have a problem with it because I ain't crazy. Good thing about me is I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna kill you if I'm gonna kill you. No, just kidding. God. Okay. Anyway, so I go to the bananas and I'm looking at the bananas and I'm like, okay, uh, which one should I grab? Because they all look good. And so this, if you'll recall, is talking about the path of least resistance. And so if I grab the biggest banana in the bunch, then it's gonna make all the whole bunch fall on the floor. And I'm trying to prevent that because I don't want them to be bruised, right? So at that moment, even though this sounds trivial, I think, what is the path of least resistance? And it's like this little banana that's hanging off the edge, and it's the smaller of the bananas, but I grab it without any incident whatsoever. The bananas flawlessly comes off, so on and so forth. Now, you might say, what does that have to do with the path of least resistance? And I say this to say this, that because sometimes my mind moves faster than the regular person, if I went in there and just grabbed the biggest one, which is what I wanted because I love bananas, then it would have I would have grabbed it and all the bananas would have fell on the floor, and then I would have been frustrated and irritated, and then I would have allowed that irritation to carry over into the other things for my day. So, to prevent myself from having a situation that created a situation up in situations, I just grabbed the banana that was in the path of least resistance. And without incident, I had no issues. But I knew, and this is something, now keep in mind, you might have went in there and been like, duh, Dina, that was like so easy, Dina Marie. Why would you sit there and be like, hello, have a whole dissertation? Because everybody's not like that, and I'm one of those people. And because my mind moves so quickly that it it doesn't have time sometimes to catch up with Sally while she's sitting up here rambling on all the woes of her day, issue, and problems that have nothing to do with me. So, because she has come in and created a scenario for me, someone who, again, thinks a mile a minute, but has to go back and process anything that I'm given in the process of me thinking about other things. Okay? Because it really was my day till you called me, Sally. It was my day until you called me. But when you called me, you interrupted my day with your shit. I'm good with that because I'm here for you. However, I'm going to need you to get on day 3 with this drama that you got going on so that I can move on because we could talk about other things. Like, how about we talk about taking a vacation to Catalina Island? It's not far from here where I live in Long Beach. The ferry takes you right on over there. We can go have some tacos, and enjoy our margaritas on the beach, girl. Talking about everything but your work situation, okay? Because your problems are not my problems. And I have to be grounded enough to say to Sally, and if our friendship means anything to her, or our sisterhood, or our brotherhood, or our familyhood, or our relationship hood, then guess what? You're going to acknowledge that I am your only honest person telling you what you need to hear at the moment that you need to hear it. But if, excuse me, you can't acknowledge that the facts that you are having issues in your life that are not part of my life, but I've made concessions to hear your issues, then guess what? We're gonna have to carry this on in another place in time. I'm sorry, y'all, but with all these lights, my little fan is it needs to be in my face. Okay. I don't know if that's gonna work right here, but let's see what I can do. Oh, it's a struggle. Struggle is real. Oh crap. Well, let's see if it'll work right there. Let's see what I can do. Whew. I'm so sorry, but when it gets hot, ooh, Jesus, I can't take it. I just need a little air. But anyway, and part of what you see on my face, straight up to my face, it's not sweat, but it's more like my um it's like my moisturizer. It radiates. But anyway, not that you asked for that, but just wanted to share why I was moving about the cabin. Ooh, Jesus, thank you. Ooh, these hot days, Jesus. It's not even hot outside. It's just me. But yeah, so Sally, we're gonna have a conversation, and she might not be in a receiving mode at that moment. But again, it's imperative when you have issues with people who are coming in and creating problems for you and not keeping things on the path of least resistance for you, or they don't care about what you going through, or asking, hey, how's your day going? When they're not doing that, then again, you have to decipher how you're going to say it, when you're going to say it, and what you're going to say. Because just like that banana, if I had gone in there and grabbed the one that was on the bottom, all the bananas on the thing would fall. And I can't be going bananas. Oh, that was a good joke. Anyway, segue. No, but seriously, the characteristics have to be noticed early on so that I can decide what is going to be the path of least resistance between this conversation that we're having and the conversation that I'm trying to have and not have with Sally. But with that being said, um, we need to now, after we've looked at the path of least resistance and we've talked about or we thought about what the characteristics of that person coming in to take your mental and energies and your mental space uh, and your energies and turn them from positive to negative or just negative period. We've talked about those characteristics, right? And you have made a decision based on what I've shared with you about how I heal me and how I keep myself protected. And now I'm going to share some steps that are actually helpful to me. And one of them is to go into my space. Now, early on, I talked about my vortex. I love telling you about my vortex. My grandson Noah. I tell him, I say, now Noah, because sometimes Noah, and he loves to. He's just very energetic. He's an amazing little young man. He is so freaking smart. Oh my God, he's adorable, of course, but that's not even it. It's just the fact that he can get in trouble sometimes because he's moving too quickly. And he's a toddler, like you, some of you have, you want to tell him to sit down and do this and do that. So I say to him, I say, now, Noah, if you're at school or you're at home with your mom and dad, and somehow you are getting in trouble because, maybe you're doing too much, I want you to go into your vortex. And he'll say, Mimi, what's my vortex? And so I'll say, your vortex is your own private little bubble. And you get to go in there and you can do anything you want to do. You could be anybody you want to be. You could say anything you want to say, but you are just enjoying your space because nobody else is in there. But when you're in there, nobody can hear you and it's very quiet. So inside my vortex, I get to be Dina Marie. Not only do I get to be Dina Marie, I ain't got to hear nothing that nobody's saying that I don't want to hear that's creating a problem for me. And for some of you, like I said, some people might think that this sounds crazy because maybe you don't have to go through all this, but maybe you should because you might be mean. You might be the Sally. You might be the person that's being the person that is selfish with the conversation and unreceiving and unreceivable and just don't give a damn about nobody else and what they got to say or what they going through because all it is about you in that moment. And even after you hang up, it's still about me. But ain't nobody talking to your ass because don't nobody want to hear it. So my point is, whether this is me, whether this is you, whether this is somebody who can't see what I'm saying or not, you might want to listen because you may be seeing, hmm, why am I alone? The point that I'm getting to is that you should get into your own space. While you're in the midst of these conversations with these people, find that space. And when you're in that space, stay there until you see an out. But most importantly, I'm serious when I say this. If they're allowing you to speak, speak. But if not, then again, it's important for you because let's say, for instance, you want a business, you want to be a multimillionaire, and so on and so forth. You don't become a multimillionaire from being mean. Some are shrewd, but being mean is not where it's at anymore. It's not. If you have your head stuck up your tail and you think that you're better than me, well, guess what? I could be a trillionaire and you asking me for something and you don't know what I got. You just imagine that I don't have anything because today I wore a holy shirt and some pants with tears in it. You can't judge me no more. You can't judge people anymore. You can't use those types of characteristics to judge people. So you got to come out the gate being ready to perform, whatever that means. And I don't mean be fake because people could see through that. People could see when you're being transparent or not. But what I am saying is maybe at one point you felt this did not apply to you. And some people use their zodiac sign to decipher the type of person that they are, if they're this or if they're that, if you're, if you tell the truth, if you tell lies, if you're fiery or you're, in love or what do you call it, dreamy, or if you're this or if you're that, whatever it is that helps you to get to that place, you have to get to that place because the reality is again, you may not even realize that this is one of the things that you need to do to get on a trail to becoming that millionaire, trillionaire, billionaire. And that is that you have to find the place in your mental that allows you to go and be Dina Marie quiet, Dina Marie solace, Dina Marie peaceful, Dina Marie, think before I speak, you know. So whatever that place is, like I said, I call it my vortex. You might call it your head space. You might call it your mind space. Whatever you call that, you have to, you're in the midst of this conversation. And even though this person is communicating with you, they can't see that they've been saying the same thing for 3, 4 days now. And you're trying to go into your headspace so that when, you're hearing them, and when they come back out, but guess what? You hear them, mind you, they ain't said nothing new from 3 days ago. So really, the whole story. You know the whole gamut of what happens with the outcome because it's the same outcome, and it's the same outcome. Why? It's not up to us to decipher why they having a problem, but we can decipher because they haven't spoken up, they haven't dealt with it, they haven't properly addressed it. Whatever their situation is, they're continuously bringing this on by the law of attraction for whatever reason. They're attracting this to them, and so it keeps happening to them. Just like if I had grabbed the banana that was not in the path of least resistance and they all fell on the floor, I would have been pissed off because now I'm gonna have bruised bananas. I'm gonna use that 17 seconds it took for me to go in there and create that drama. Now I'm using it for everything else I do throughout my day. And the only way for me to reset for me is to go to sleep and wake back up because now I have started my day over again. But there are other ways, but those are ways we could talk about later. But for the most part, it is imperative. That's why I started with the beginning of being choosing your path of least resistance. Because if you start everything out that way, 9 times out of 10, you're going to end on a better note. Definitely a better note. But that first step, as I talked about, the path of least resistance, finding the characteristics of this person who's trying to get into your good energies and make them negative, is finding out what characteristics are they using in that moment that are going to pull you out so that you can recognize what you need to do. And immediately you go into these steps. Like I said, you're going to go to your happy place. Mine is my vortex, you know, and it's a place that no one can penetrate, whether I allow them to or whether they try to. It's not happening. You're not getting in that space because that's my space. you know it's been coined years ago. Nobody ever uses it, but they say it's still out there. My space. So anyway, with that being said, it's imperative. I'm not going to give myself to someone else in hopes of them being uh, the person that's going to make me feel better. No, I'm not doing it. It is very important for me to make sure that I do what I need to do to preserve my headspace, and it is not what you think you're going to have as part of the puzzle pieces that you need to use is more or less a scenario that you're going to have to use to make sure that the people that are doing this to you are not getting away with stuff that is not um, something that, to me, they're going to continue to use against you, because that's the problem, is that they're using it against you. And once they start using it against you, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it at that point? You can't do anything about it at that point, because at that point you're basically saying, well, I I gave this person this, that, and the third, and now all of a sudden they don't care about how I feel. They just maybe using this against me, and da 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 da. You're finding all these scenarios that are not working. You're finding all these scenarios that are not working to help you get out of the scenario because you didn't speak up. You've got to speak up. And this is very important to your mental. Because if you don't speak up, you're going to continue putting up with it until you say something about it. That's the unfortunate part. That you are just going to be like, oh, I thought, I thought. And unfortunately, it just does not work for the collective. It doesn't. So, with that being said, when we go to our space away from someone, or we're talking or dealing with something, when we go into our happy place, so to speak, and we kind of bring ourselves into that solitude of, on a mental ground where we're definitely trying to make sure that we're not going to be placed in that negative sphere. We're going to be in that positive spirit. And we're not allowing these people to penetrate that mental space because we don't have it to give. Number one, if we're utilizing the majority of our mental for ourselves, we don't have it to lend to others who are not caring about us. We don't have it. We just don't have it. So the fact that we don't have it to give is mostly a situation where we've got to say, you know what? Uh, this person said blah 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 yada yada yada, but you know what? They didn't think about my feelings. They didn't say, hey, how is Dina Marie feeling? How is this going on? How's this going to happen or whatever? They didn't think about my feelings. We don't have to go through all that if we have gone into our solitude and in our place where we're able to grow from the things that are keeping us grounded, so to speak, keeping us in a space where I can use my wherewithal, I have my own wherewithal to deal with the situation. Eventually, when we try, again, we talked about redirecting the individual, but eventually we hope that we can redirect them. Um, and if you can't redirect them, we talk, Sally, Sally, um, I know you're talking about that work situation, but did you ever get to buy your such and such and such and such? How did that go? We're going to redirect them, you know, and keep in mind, sometimes people do this just off the cuff because they're used to doing it. But what about those of you who are not used to doing it? This is who we're talking about. But again, for those of you who are so good at it, again, each one teach one. That's what we're here for. We're trying to help each other. Put it in the comments. What do you do? How do you do it? How do you redirect someone? With that being said, the thing about redirecting someone is you're redirecting them into a place that is not only now a place for your mental, where your mental can handle, but a place where you don't have to continue to be in a place that is making you feel inadequate, so to speak. You know, you feel some kind of way because this person is doing, you know, the things that they do, but you're also looking at it like, well, huh, they didn't think about me. They didn't ask how I was doing. They didn't see how I was feeling. You're not going down this gamut of issues of, rights and wrongs and different things like that. You're basically redirecting this person so that you're not losing your brain to try and function with this person in a negative space. I mean, if there's something that I don't like more than anything, is being negative and being in a negative place, because people continue to go through negative stuff all the time because they don't realize that this is happening because someone else put them there, which is the craziest part of it. Someone else put that person in a negative place and didn't even bother to make sure that they weren't doing it to that person what was going on with themselves. They weren't thinking about that. You know, um, I want to make sure that while you're doing these processes, that you're looking at it from a perspective of how are you going to get on the right track. You're saying to me that you may or may not know how to redirect. Somebody put in the chat, how do I redirect? And redirecting is just, like I said, I don't know if you were on at that moment, but when you redirect someone, you are basically saying to them, well, did you ever go pick up those flowers that you said you was going to send to your mom or whatever? And when they say yes or no, or maybe so or no, or whatever this answer is, you're redirecting that conversation. You're steering it in a different direction. You're putting it back on course, so to speak. So redirecting is imperative because, again, people want to talk about their stuff, but they don't want to basically recognize when what they're saying is a little bit more than another person can take or wants to take. And so when we redirect, we're redirecting because we're now making sure that we're not putting things in perspective for that other person, but we're putting it in perspective for ourselves. Does that make sense? Yes, yes, yes. But the main thing that I say you have to say to Sally is you got to tell Sally where you stand. And that was, I kind of segued into that from the characteristics perspective because I basically said, hey, Sally, we talked about this on Monday. Are you sure you want to talk about it again? Like, hello. You're trying to give them the space and give them the time to recognize themselves. You know what, Dina Marie, I am so sorry to have bogged you down with my issues, and I appreciate you listening. That's fine when they apologize and thank you, but that's not necessarily the issue because the issue is that you're wanting them to acknowledge that they are continuously talking about the same thing. And even though you've made yourself available for them in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the nighttime, they still have not gotten to a place where they can jump off that subject. But that does not mean you can keep coming into my space and sharing things with me that are creating a negative space for me, if that makes sense. Now, I want to make sure that you're okay, Sally. I want to make sure that you heal from whatever it is that creates this for you. I mean, why do you feel unheard? What are some of the things that you feel you can do to make sure that your message is received in a way that won't get you fired? Or if you don't care about getting fired, what is one of the ways that you can say what you have to say as you make an exit? Because understand, if you will, that if you leave one job in a bad place, you're not going to be able to get a new job and be in a good place. You're not. Because you could call it karma if you will, but it's really based on how you do what you do to advance to the next learning of life. If you have not advanced to the next level, ding, ding, like in Mario, where they keep advancing up to the next level. If you have not advanced to that next level, then unfortunately, what's going to happen is you're not going to learn what you needed to learn from the previous scenario going into a new scenario. And I've talked to you all before about jobs that I've had when I worked in healthcare IT. Um, a lot of times working in healthcare IT, it really wasn't anything that I had done. It was just someone didn't like me for their own unfortunate reasons that weren't any of my business. But if you come to me and tell me I'm not doing the job, then I can only take that and go forward and learn how to do the job. But 9 times out of 10, you weren't telling me that I didn't know what I was doing. You just didn't like me. And I never even saw you before. I never even did anything to you. You just didn't like me. Maybe you don't like my voice. Maybe you don't like the gap in my tooth. Maybe you don't like my eye color. Maybe you don't like my skin color. Girl, bye. That's your problem, not mine. Hello. That's how I feel today. That's not how I felt years ago. I always internalize that shit. And it can make me mad right now, but I'm in my bubble, I'm in my vortex because those things don't make me mad anymore. It's sad because I almost want to feel sorry for the person who can't identify that that's the problem that they have, but they never really had a problem with me. And it's sad. It's unfortunate that a person has to be angry over things that they can't identify within themselves is what's wrong with them, you know? And I wish them, the best. And I just say, bless their hearts. Just bless their hearts. Because what else am I going to say? It's not my problem and it's not my responsibility. And now I get why people say that's your problem and not my problem. That's not my problem. You know, I mean, we are as a people trying to identify, unfortunately, and get over, unfortunately, microaggressions, micro inequities, prejudices, many indiscretions, but most importantly, self deprivation, boo. Are you kidding me? That's your main issue right there. It's self deprivation. You know, you have ideas and goals that you want to achieve, but you can't even get to them because you're depriving yourself of those things based on what somebody else said, did, or thinks about you. So at this moment in time, if you don't tell them what they are saying, doing, and creating for you, that's on you yet again. And not only is it on you, but we keep going through that lesson until you learn it. And again, you're going to go through that lesson until you learn it. There are three H's that I love to share: humble, hungry, and honest. And if you're not humble enough to be hungry, or hungry enough to be honest, or honest enough to be hungry and humble, you're not going to be any of the H's. You're not going to get where you need to go. So you've got to make sure that when you come at someone, you're coming at them in a humble way, but an honest way, because you're hungry for your own truths. Okay. And I love that whole montage because by me saying those things, it keeps me motivated to be a benefit to myself, to love who I am. And it makes me a better woman to be able to love who I want to love, to give what I give, and to succeed at what I'm doing. And the best part of all in all of this is to get to those millions, billions, and trillions. I have to prepare at this level so that when I get to that level, I know how to do what I need to do. And it's coming. You'll see. I'm not begging anybody for nothing, and I'm not telling anybody anything any more than I need to tell them because I know what I know and I believe what I believe for myself. But with that being said, it's almost like, again, a manifestation. And these are those steps. And these are the preliminary, if you will, the immature steps that need to be, grounded. You need to dig down in that foundation. Make sure that there's no quicksand underneath. And if it is, you can only clear it out, re-gut it, and line the whole foundation, because a little bit goes a long way, but a long way can make sure that you get to a stronger foundation if you do it right, a stronger building if you build your foundation right. And if you can't build your foundation right, then you're only going to be weak. And that segues into our next step in making sure that when you communicate these things with people who are creating this impasse for you or creating this struggle for you in their conversation because they're not thinking about you, it's because you're not standing firm. And that's the whole preface, right, of restructuring that foundation. And that foundation came with you setting a firm understanding of where you're coming from. And because you set that firm foundation to Sally, now Sally can sit there and she can think about it. She can listen to it. She could overtalk you till one of y'all hang up, or put all cap letters in the email or the message until one of you disconnects mentally. Or she can listen and say, Dina Marie did sit for an hour or 10 minutes or 5 minutes and read what I sent her in a DM or an email or the phone call, the least I can do is go ahead and hear her out. You know, that would be her best recourse, because at that point, I'm able to receive that she could receive what I was given, and I'm able to allow myself to help continue to help her heal based on how I heal. But if I'm just going to get the reasons you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do this, I can see that you're not willing to receive, and it's more important for you to be right. So I'm going to let you be right, but I'm not going to be part of that. When you want to talk about us in a relationship being able to communicate effectively, please let me know. And I'll be more than happy to have that conversation with you. But at this moment, um, I do have some things, some rolls in the oven I need to get. I do need to run to the store before they close. I do need to do my laundry. I got to pick up the kids. My husband needs dinner. Whatever you choose to utilize at that moment is perfectly within your right. Because the worst part is if somebody can give to you, but they can't take it. And at that point, if there's no accountability on the behalf of that individual, what relationship can you, what foundation does your relationship have? I guess I could say. What foundation does it really have? And with that being said, once you stand firm, there's a couple of things in the Bible that I love, and it says, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. Excuse me. And how many parents out there have said, go ask your dad. If your dad says yes, I say yes. But that is taken away from that spiritual advisement, because if you say no, then it means no, period. If he says no, it means no, period. But what you don't do is send them back and forth, because really you don't want to be responsible for saying yes or no. So in this same situation, how I liken that in the Sally scenario is, if I say I'm going to listen, I'm going to listen. But if I say I'm not going to listen, I'm not going to listen. So if she comes back and I've already given her the stand firm step, where I'm like not getting my feet wet in any more of her issues, then I stick by my no. You feel me? I stick by my no. And I'm not going to continue to swagger back and forth, because it's dizzy. It makes me dizzy. My head is swarming around trying to make sure that Sally feels better. But I didn't do nothing to make sure Dina Marie feels better. And now my word is nothing, because I went back on my word. Sometimes you miss the person, you haven't talked to them in a while, and you're like, oh no, I haven't spoken to Sally. I miss speaking to Sally. I want to speak to Sally. But, you know, sometimes it's not up to you to make the first move. If Sally calls you and her first words are, you know what, I was wrong, then you might be able to understand the trajectory of that conversation. But if she calls back and she's like, you know what, then you see it going upstream and you not trying to pedal that fast, child, you better jump out that boat and let yourself swim on downstream till you get to the bottom, because it's not going nowhere fast, to be honest. So, with that being said, we definitely need to make sure that we stand firm. There's another scripture that I love, and it says, he who is faithful in little is faithful in much. Same concept. You know, if Sally has shown you time and time again that she is not going to afford you the benefits of being someone that she can listen to, or someone that she can agree to disagree with, but all on a maturity level, then you already know what you're getting. You know what I'm saying? Because they haven't been faithful in little things. So you gonna give her $1,000 to go to the grocery store and buy you a loaf of bread with and get you and expect you change? No, because any way that you look at it, they can't be trusted in little things where you're concerned. How would you entrust them in the larger things that you have, like your mind, your heart, your solitude? Those are the largest things that you can have at this moment, especially this time that we're in. So, why would you trust anyone with that if they can't even prove to you that they can just take a small phone call that you're having and listen to, allow you to reciprocate the verbiage? But they come back with what they found, all these things that you did wrong because they're in that moment of feeling inadequate themselves. So their inadequacies that they're feeling are making them feel like they can't do anything right. So now they got to come back with the comeback on you who ain't said shit. You've been listening all that time, just sitting there listening. But now they got to come with a comeback because they got to find some inadequacies about you, which you aren't the topic, nor are you the issue. So that's the reason why you have to make sure that you're able to handle the situation, follow your steps, and focus on what is important: your mental, your heart, your positive energy, the momentum of the day that you had started for yourself by not grabbing the banana that was on the bottom. Stay focused, stay driven, stand firm in what you believe in, and don't fall by the wayside. Because as I said, he who is faithful in little is faithful in much. And if they can't be faithful in the small things, they're definitely not going to be faithful in the larger things that you afford to them. You know. So at this point, you know, maybe you retry again. Maybe you retry one more time. Whatever it's going to take to make you feel confident. So once you retry and they still don't listen, you can only go to um, additional steps that help you to kind of erase that whole conversation out of your mental so that you're not feeling like, you know, when you hang up with Sally or maybe Sally hung up on you because you wasn't letting her finish the same conversation from Monday, now Friday, and or you're talking and as you're talking you hear them in your head once you've gotten off the phone and you feel some kind of way because you're really hurt and sad and upset and disappointed that the conversation went the way that it went, but you standing firm in how you believe and what you believe, and you're not going to backslide and go back to Sally and be like, well, you know what, all right, I'm sorry. You don't have to say you're sorry to me. I'm gonna say I'm sorry to you. But no matter how much you went through to verify that you wasn't in the wrong, you don't know how you're gonna get past this. And I do this every morning. I tell Siri to set me a 20-minute timer and I meditate. Now, I don't like to talk about the intricacies of my meditation because again, I love, love, love that this is my private time and my solitude that I'm able to go into my vortex and I can just talk about the beautiful things that I have going on in my mind, my heart, and all the good things about myself that make me feel proud of me. And one of those things is that this is what I really, really, really love. Remember at the beginning, I was talking about how we all have to go back into this place of feelings. And maybe someone makes you feel weird because they're like, feelings, so feelings, feelings. No, 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 no. In order for you to succeed in anything, you have to say, what does it feel like? What does it feel like if I haven't said or done this in a long time? How did I feel when I did it and I succeeded with it before? And so maybe I find how I felt. And once I figure it out, then I focus on that feeling. But maybe I can't remember. And one of the things that I do, and maybe it's just a generic of me trying to feel good. What I do is I go through every letter of the alphabet and I find a feeling word. And then I say, I feel blank, I feel B, I feel C, I feel D, and I go through that. But, I put a little more emphasis on it. But I start off my meditation with good, positive feeling words, nothing negative. It can't be a negative word because if it's a negative word, that changes the direction. So it's always how I feel, A through Z. Once I get to Z, I make up words that start with X and words that start with Z all the time. But I laugh about it because by then I'm in a happy space and I'm able to meditate on that happy note. And at that point, I kind of clear everything out of my mind and I just meditate. And there's a lot of very interesting things that can take place during your meditation, through it, of which I'm gonna provide through websites that you can use as homework, so you can go out there and look, and you can see, for yourself how to do these things if you decide to, if you don't, so on and so forth. But for the most part, just very interesting things that allow you to be you and allow you to find yourself in these processes. But for the most part, giving you what you need to, as I said before, what meditation does is it's like quicksand, or not quicksand, but it's like sand and water in a jar. And when you swirl the jar around, you know how we used to make those little tornadoes? And when the water settles at the top, the sand settles at the bottom. And remember what I said, you see through the water is clarity. Because once the water settles and the sand settles and the water stops, you see through the water, and that's clarity. That's a representation of clarity. So because of that, you're able to have that clarity when you meditate. That's what meditation does, is it brings clarity. And there are a lot of misconceptions about meditation. And again, these three websites will provide you with additional feedback on that. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But that's, for me, how I reset myself whenever I have a bad experience or some negativity that has been brought into my space, you know, my space. So funny. But anyway, um, and I just try to make sure that I am asking for the right direction in my moments of meditation, if you will. And during the moments of meditation, it's very important to get an idea of what it is that I want out of my clarity. You know, do I want me and Sally to be friends? Sometimes meditating is a much broader perspective and it's more generalized. So instead of saying, I want that yellow dress with the yellow pumps and the yellow hat, you just may say something like, I would love a new dress, hat, and shoes. Now, perhaps they'll match, perhaps they won't. Perhaps you'll just be funded the funds to be able to purchase those things, regardless of what the scenario is. Sometimes the scenario that you ask for has to be on a broader perspective. Like, talk about relationships. I want to get married. I want to have a baby. I want me to be closer to my family. I want to be, you know, I want to help my family members. I want to help my best friend, you know, or I want to help my friends. So on a broader spectrum, you may say things broadly to be able to manifest some of those beautiful, positive energies that will come into your vortex, if you will. Because when you bring in these requests, so to speak, they're not generalized to one thing or another, but they're very broad. But broad being the operative word because it's basically affording you the opportunity to give back to someone. Maybe it's not coming in the way that you want it to, but by you focusing on something positive for something else or someone else, it takes your mind off of your stuff that's happening in a negative sense, or it could be, well, I'm gonna say negative because if it was positive, you wouldn't have to worry about it, because when you think about it, it becomes a belief and it happens regardless. So when I say negative, if you're thinking about it and it's negative, it becomes a belief, and then it continues to manifest itself negatively. So when you're thinking of your broad requests as you meditate through these things in life, you're getting positivity, because now you're asking for for things to be manifested for you in a positive way so that they help other people. And when you ask those things and those things manifest, then your things for you that you have asked for that are a little bit more um, less generalized and more specific, like the red pumps, or or $1 million. I know I'm going to win $1 million. I know it's coming. I don't know when. You're manifesting these things because you have now put out positivity for someone else, something else, or for yourself. So it's important to understand why you're meditating, what you're asking for as you're meditating, and how you're going to meditate to make sure that your own mind is peaceful. I look at social media and I just wonder how many of the people talking about positive energies really know what they're talking about. Or are they just saying it because the last page they was on said it? And, you know, some people do and will go out and research certain things, and some people won't. And so when we have our live podcasts with Dina Marie, I like to be able to share with you. And before I get on my podcast, I kind of break it up into four pieces and kind of decide what I'm going to discuss, how I'm going to bring those topics up, what kinds of things I want to share with you, because these have legit been things that have helped me with that process. Whether it was how I lost weight, or whether it was how I became happier, or whether it is because one thing or another that I'm trying to do, things with my music. You know, a lot of people, when I first started doing my music, they were like, you know, you used to sing and now you're not singing like you used to. And one of the things they have to understand is that I under well, when you come back into this industry, or when you come into the industry, whatever the situation is, you are coming into something that it has things already in place that are successful. And so some people don't understand that success that is being achieved by others, a lot of people you will hear emulate. That's why people say, dang, she sounds just like so and so. I can't tell the difference between her and so and so. And the reason is because, you know, everybody's trying to find that next big sound, and they trying to be different from the last and the last and the last. And they trying to convert over to that next big sound that's going to catch on and everybody's going to vibe with. But nobody very very rarely goes back to a sound unless that's part of a new sound. Feel me? So it was kind of hard to um, emphasize this to people, and you end up becoming a little um, set back. I feel set back. I don't feel like I'm a stop with my music. I just feel set back. So I have to find a new way. And then through that process, I'm opening myself up for new people to come through and say, hey, Dina, how about you try it this way? How about you try it that way? And through those people's innovation and ideas, I love it because I'm very open to receive anything that anybody gives me that will help me. Um, I also love being able to use it or not use it. Being able to decipher whether or not it's a good plan for me is process too. So, with that being said, you know, the music thing is a process as well. But what I am very confident about and very sure of is that when one thing happens, everything will prosper. And that's because I want to put out there all the beauty that I can put out there, and all the positivity that I can put out there, and all the wonderful blessings that I want others to have, in addition to myself, because I know that if I do that for them, it's going to come back for me. And so that's the reason why I say do these steps. Um, have your own space. Make sure that whatever you do, you redirect your steps so that they go in a lit up direction, and you're able to see the the end of the tunnel, but you're not going back into the same hole that somebody put you in to create negativity. You're standing firm in what you do, and you know that you're going to succeed. But most importantly, you're letting your yes mean yes and your no mean no. And that you're being faithful in all the things that you do. You're not just taking the little things serious, you're taking the big things serious. And most importantly, you take time to recycle your mind by meditating or praying, but just getting yourself back on track. That is so important, to get yourself back on track. Because if you don't get yourself back on track, then the unfortunate part for you is that you're not going to have that space that you need to be on track. Not only getting on track, but to be on track. If you're not on track, then that's because you let somebody get you off track and put you in a place that is not meaningful for you to be able to succeed in all of the things that you hope to manifest. Does that make sense? If you do not do the things that you need to do to make sure that you do all the things in the steps, and these could be your own steps, these will just happen to be some of my steps. I'm not telling you to do this or do that or not do this or do this. I'm just telling you that it's important for you to make sure that somehow you put yourself in a place that is going to allow you to be able to manifest the prosperousness of life, the things, the prosperities, I guess I could say of life, of your life, of what you feel is good for you. Again, what somebody else comes to you with is their business. You have to decipher what is does it mean to for it to be your business, and what does it mean for it to be you, and the things that you need to do for yourself. Do you know what those are? If you don't know what those are, maybe you owe it to yourself to figure it out. What do you need to do to figure it out? What do you need to do to accomplish those goals? How are you going to make sure that whatever you do is going to be to your benefit and not to your detriment? Because remember, self deprivation is one of the leading causes of why people are not succeeding in life. And how did they get there? They got there because of a microaggression, a micro inequity, racial tension, or self deprivation, or someone just criticizing you flat out, jealousy. And I'm going to give you some homework. And your homework is going to be to understand what microaggressions are, micro inequities, because right now you could be allowing somebody to put you there now, and you don't even know it because you don't know what they are and what they mean. And it's imperative that you learn what they are, because I will tell you that um, they are harsh. They are very scrupulous semantics. And one day we'll have a microaggression and micro inequity talk, because I didn't know what they were, and I didn't know that people was doing that to me. And it's not necessarily based on race. So it's important that you learn what it means, because it's a situation that a lot of people have been placed in and didn't know that they were placed in, and it just sucks. because one thing's for sure, two things are for true, is that if someone is saying these things and doing these things to you, and you haven't stuck up for yourself or for others, then how are you going to get in a place where you're ever able to change it? You can't. There's no way possible for you to do that if you don't understand what they are, how they've hurt you, and how you can correct what has been done to in your own mindset by those things. Make sense? Okay. So definitely it's important for you to have your homework, because in you having your homework, it's important for you also to understand who it is that is necessary, who is necessary to understand why these particular people are doing the kinds of things that they're doing to you, because the people that have done these things to so many people, it has just been a devastation, if you will. It has been a devastation to our culture, and not only to our culture, but it has been a devastation to people people's lives. Where some people have been bullied, and when they got bullied, they didn't even realize that they were being bullied, because basically they were falling into these situations because they really thought something was wrong with them. And that's the unfortunate part. The fact that they thought something was wrong with them based on what other people would say or do to them. That's horrible. I just find it, it just sucks that someone could be allowed to do some of the things that they've done, like the micro inequities and the microaggressions and stuff like that. When I learned about what they meant, so not to get off into a tangent, but to basically help you understand that they're so important for you to um, learn about them, because once you learn about them, you're going to know that it is not so much what people can do or say, but that they won't have these powers over you, you know? So in the chat, I have placed those links. I am also going to place them on the YouTube channel so that you all are able to uh, pick them up from the YouTube channel. But for the most part, so that you can basically have these things going forward, um, to help you understand where you're at, where you need to be, where you're going, what's up with you. And I appreciate you guys. I really do. Those of you that come on and follow me. I know yesterday I was supposed to be on and I couldn't be on because of other things going on in my life. So I apologize that I missed Thursday. But I'm so glad that you joined me today. And I'm so excited to be able to talk to you all and be able to help you and I together. It's me helping you, helping me heal. And I appreciate you more than you'll know. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And as we go on our outro, I want to ask that you please check me out on all the platforms. Um, I put another link in my on my YouTube channel. I had the honor and the privilege of being on the Judge Kevin Ross show. It was a great pleasure. Just FYI, keep it in mind that these are situations that happen in people's lives, and we get to bring you the whole process without others hurting and going through the scenario. So just keep an eye out for my link on the Kevin Ross show. And also, please participate in my podcast. You know, later may be too late because once we get blown up, I can't be sure I can get to everybody. So I'm just saying, because uh, it is what it is, right? So I look forward to seeing you all next week. We probably have about 5 minutes left. It is 5:55, which is a good number. And going out, I want to ask that you all have a wonderful day. And I hope that you enjoy my show. Take care. Salud. And you keep healing me like I keep healing you. Salud.
Suave Salud. Waking up to a mystery, trying to find if it's really me. Waking up to a mystery, trying to find if it's really me. Moving parts, fly like darts, breaking hearts, changing lives, Picasso art. Answers clear, now there's fear. Signs I see, making me believe. Answers clear, now there's fear. Signs I see, making me believe. Answers clear, now there's no fear. Signs I see, make me believe. Answers clear, now there's no fear. Signs I see, make me believe. Waking up to a mystery, trying to find if it's really me. Waking up to a mystery, trying to find if it's really me. No Waking up to a mystery, trying to find if it's really me. Waking up to a mystery, trying to find if it's really me. Trying to find if it's really me. Waking up to a mystery. Looking for love, looking for love. Looking for love, looking for love. something no one could have gave me. Looking for some love to come and save me, but I just had to look deep down, and I just had to get away. I just had to find my way, had to pave my own way. I did it anyway. Had to break down to build me. Had to close my eyes to see. Had to hold my breath to keep breathing. Had to lose myself to find me. Looking for love, looking for love. 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 I'm not the type to be played around. There's plenty of me that I haven't found. I keep my 2 feet planted on the ground. I got my own bag, don't ask where you at. Making my own money, chasing my own bag. Got them Fendi sneaks and that Louis pad. About to bust the move, gotta meet the man. Had to break down to build me. Had to close my eyes to